This is Boxing Ticket, and we are delighted to be joined for the very first time with the silent assassin, Ryan O'Rourke. How are you, Ryan?
Good, mate. How are you?
I'm struggling on. It's I sort of was saying to you just before we started there, your sort of pro career sort of aligned with when I first started doing YouTube interviews, and it's just 4 years sort of passed there for me, and obviously doing interviews, nearly 700 interviews deep, and this is the first time I've had you on. I guess our paths have crossed before, but we've never really sort of had the time to sort of get an interview sorted. But thankfully, we finally get you on now.
Yeah, it's good to be on. We've planned this for quite a while now, and we're finally here. So let's
I
get it.
guess sometimes obviously the extra time can obviously make it better. So hopefully, fingers crossed, everything runs smoothly for us. But I guess I know a lot obviously about your career, Ryan, but obviously others may not know obviously about your career. Obviously, your father, obviously Stephen, obviously is your coach. He's your sort of everything in life. Was he the sort of reason you got involved in boxing, or was he the sort of one that pushed you into it? Sort of what got you involved in boxing first and foremost?
Well, I'd say obviously him being a coach, like I was always gonna at least try boxing. I don't think I was ever would have been went a lifetime without trying boxing if your father's a coach, like. So obviously he got me into it, and I always liked that as a kid. Like every day of the week I'd be either boxing or playing football. Either one. I was an active kid. Like I had loads of energy, so I'd be doing something. So it was either football or boxing. And then obviously I got to an age where if you want to be successful in one of them sports, you kind of have to pick one. And I just went and picked boxing. And here I am a couple of years later. Turned out to be a decent enough decision.
Was it more so like, I guess obviously as a kid, sort of probably growing up obviously watching your dad in the gyms? Was it sort of more of a I want to do that sort of, the kid is sort of, you want to try something out? Was it sort of that sort of, or I guess your dad being your dad, he sort of wouldn't push you into it, it's sort of your own decision, but was it more like an intrigue sort of, well, let's see what this is about, let's give it a crack? Was that how it sort of started for you?
It was kind of like that, a bit about because my dad would go to the gym but he'd always bring me along with him. So I'd be there and I enjoyed doing it. So I enjoyed looking at other people do it, and I just, as I said, yeah, I thought I wouldn't mind doing a bit of that, like. So I went from there, and I just never stopped after that. He'd bring me, and then obviously every time he'd go to gym, I'd want to go to gym then, and I just went from there.
He sort of maybe done it in a good way, sort of rather than try to push you into it. Probably his ideal thing for you was you to get involved, but for him to maybe push you and you might rebel and sort of go, I want to play football instead. So maybe he's done it in a smart way and bring you along, let you watch, and then wait for you to make your moment to go, Dad, I want to try that.
Yeah, definitely, and it was never like you have to box, like, because it was just something that I'd want to do energy. As I said, I was full of energy. Even as from a kid as young as like probably 7, 8 years of age, I was nearly training every day of the week by choice. Like I'd go football, boxing, football, boxing. I'd probably have like a Friday off, and then on the weekends I'd be playing football and boxing. Like I just had so much energy that I had to be, I had to be doing something. I couldn't just sit still as a kid.
And were you any good at the football as well, or sort of did it get to that stage where you were sort of trying to weigh up how you would probably reach the top of any sport? Was that the sort of were you having to figure out which one am I better at?
I wouldn't say I was a bad footballer, but I was a decent one. But it's obviously it's a bit hard to be a professional footballer in Ireland if you haven't probably been already over to England at the ages of uh of 16, 17. So I think from that point, from the age of about 18, I thought, right, if I wanna take this boxing seriously now, I'll have to pick a sport here. So obviously I picked boxing, and just put my whole heart into it from the age of 18, and seemed to be a good choice as of now.
It's like I guess from I guess two completely different sports, and obviously like you, a lot of people will sort of be out there and they know if they do running or they play football and things like that, they might be okay at boxing, but it's a completely different muscle groups and everything else. You could be the fittest guy in the world, but you couldn't last 3 minutes in the boxing ring. So when it's went from a team environment, then individual sort of environment. So I guess there was a lot of sort of change between two different sports for you.
Yeah, I thought they both complemented each other well though. As a kid, anyway, I feel like both always kind of playing one sport definitely always helped me out in the other, whether it was the fitness side from boxing or even just the kind of like the running side of the football or the agility side of football. Having playing football has definitely given me a strong pair of legs, which you need in boxing when you get a good smack. Like so, I think they have always complemented each other well, the football and the boxing. Yeah.
I guess in some ways, probably maybe the boxing then maybe sort of taught you that sort of attitude to sort of not have the red mist as such. Obviously, we see in football all the time, obviously, people can get annoyed and opponents can wind them up. But you obviously have in the background in boxing, and that probably kept you level headed on the football field.
Definitely, yeah. But I'm not really the sort of hot headed person that'd be you'd find fighting on a football pitch. You'd find me fighting in a ring, but I'd be the last person you'd find probably probably in a punch up on a football field. Yeah.
So, like, at what age? Obviously, we know that obviously box rec obviously good for obviously some parts of particularly with pro boxing, but obviously in amateur boxing, a lot of it's not really sort of there unless you sort of know someone in box rec and they update your record and things like that. What age did you have your first fight? As a sort of as an amateur.
As a child, like
Well, I think that the furthest I can see back was 2015, the senior cadet. Would you have boxed before then?
I probably had my first fight at 9 years of age. So I thought I'd say by the ages of 11, I've probably had about 20 odd fights. So I've definitely been in boxing and fighting.
So there's
Like,
definitely a lot more. Obviously, as I say, the
oh,
first
box
the,
Rex telling you.
the first fight obviously in box rec it shows is 2015, but I guess and I know Joe and Aidan obviously Irish boxing obviously does a lot with box rec, so hopefully at some stage your whole amateur career will sort of be on there. But like obviously growing up, obviously as a young kid, obviously playing two sports, how did you sort of find that balance of getting into boxing? I guess with boxing being in the family with your dad and everything else like that, you probably knew already a lot of what was going on. But how did you find growing up being a boxer?
It was just like just a normal experience, same as being a footballer. Like there wouldn't have been as many boxers around the area as there would have been footballers now. So you'd always be he's the boxer, like. But it was no different to playing any other sport. Like I didn't feel anyway as a kid. I never really, to be honest, I never really would go out of my way to tell a lot of people that I did box. I just kind of it's just something that I did. Like I wouldn't go out of my way to tell anybody I box or something like that. Because at the same time, I would go out of my way to tell someone that I play football.
It's I guess for a lot of people in some ways in different areas obviously it can be boxing can obviously do different things, like obviously growing up in a sport where I guess where it's an individual sport as well, like how did you find defeat and things like that? Were you a bad loser obviously in the amateurs? How did you obviously deal with defeat when you were sort of growing up through the age levels?
Do you know what? I didn't really necessarily take it that bad because I view it the same way that I'd view kind of anything. Like it's came, it's happened. No matter what way I take it, it's not going to change the result. Whether it be a good result, a bad result, no matter what way I take it, it's not going to change. All I can do is try and change the future results and go from there.
And like when you obviously turned pro in 2020, obviously I guess was it always a dream to obviously to go pro? What sort of made you that decision sort of? Because I think that the last amateur fight I can sort of see it you had was obviously against the legend Aidan Walsh. Was that the last amateur fight you had before you turned pro? What was it that sort of got you into the thinking of switching to the pro ranks?
I know, to be honest, I never really like. I've always wanted to be a professional. I never really had the Olympic dream like a lot of other amateurs. Like I didn't grow up thinking, oh, I want to go to the Olympics. Like my thought process as a child was, I want to be a professional world champion. That would have been my kind of ultimate goal and dream. So I kind of made the decision to turn over pretty easy. I always had it in my mind that I'd be a young professional. I never thought I'd stay into the amateurs. into me late 20s or early 30s or nothing like that. It was always kind of the second I get a chance to turn over, it's something I'd like to do. So it was a pretty easy enough decision to make, and I feel like it was always gonna be that way. Like,
And like I guess when you obviously made your debut, obviously in January 2020, where obviously it's well documented now, obviously COVID and everything else they got. You're actually, I think your third pro fight was actually the last fight, obviously, of an Irish fighter before COVID happened. Like during that time, you're sort of you three fights within 3 months, within about 6-8 weeks for obviously COVID to happen. Like you obviously at that stage, you're probably thinking, Craigie, bad luck's following me here.
yeah, definitely. Well, we got off to a flyer of a start. Like as you said, we had 3 fights in the space of about, what was it, 8 weeks or something.
Yeah, it looks to be about 6 weeks, I think.
And I'm pretty sure. The day after my fight is the day the lockdown actually hit. Because I remember coming home, I was with some of my family as well, and they actually nearly weren't going to let us fly home from Manchester. I think pretty sure our flight was the last flight into Dublin, like for a good while. They weren't letting no one in. I remember walking through the airport coming through that day, and there was just abandoned bags going around on carousels. It was like something out of a zombie film. There was just nobody about. It was a weird, eerie feeling. Even in the airport, there was only about 3 staff on. So it was definitely an experience, all right. But I didn't think it would have lasted as long as it did, to be honest.
I remember speaking to D Walsh, obviously, because I just sort of started doing the interviews. And I went to Glean to do one, and I remember D Walsh saying to me, "Oh, this COVID's only about for a couple of weeks, and we're back to normal." And like it lasted 2 years. Like you obviously, I know one of your fights obviously isn't on your record. You're actually 11-0 rather than 10-0, but obviously because of a Polish commission, I don't think it's ever going to be sorted now. So you'll always know
So,
you're one ahead of Boxrec. But
yeah, yeah. I don't know what the story is. That I think it's just they have 2 commissions over there. Boxrec, whoever commissioned that one didn't register the Boxrec. Don't know what the story is with that. I think it's just gonna have to be left in the past, that one. But yeah,
it's like a free one. I think we've got a wee bit of a crossing signal there. Um, Obviously, a lot of probably a lot of your fights have always been through COVID. Obviously, in different countries, obviously Poland and obviously Belgium and things like that. Like, was it weird sort of times when then you come out of COVID, you seeing sort of social distancing sort of way and places back to normal?
slightly, yeah, because though COVID was on when I had 5 fights. Did I have many? I think I had a couple. Many fights did I have in COVID? I had a few fights in COVID anyway. But the countries I was going to and fighting in, some of them were some of them were kind of less strict on the rules of COVID. So when I went and fought in Spain a few times, I'm pretty sure when I fought my fourth fight in Spain, I fought in a venue in the height of COVID that probably had nearly 1,000 people in it.
Mm-hmm.
It was a big basketball arena. I think they had like it's kind of one seat in between everybody, which wasn't that much of a social distance. Like,
Mm-hmm.
so it was basically just like a normal arena. So there wasn't that much of a difference. Now there was other places that I fought, and they were in smaller venues in Spain during the COVID, and they weren't allowed to technically let so many people in. But there wasn't that much of a change fighting in front of, fighting in the COVID and fighting out of COVID for me anyway.
I guess in a lot of ways, sometimes obviously the only thing that matters is probably maybe inside the rope. So I guess you don't really notice so much of an interference from outside sometimes. So maybe in some ways, and I know I remember spoke to someone like this before, probably during the days of some of the shows where there was no crowd and it was only corners, it actually helped because you could keep your tunnel vision just hearing what your coach was saying. So in some ways, it actually helped boxing, but it didn't help an atmosphere for obviously maybe people watching all around the world.
Yeah, maybe not, no. But I seem to find even in the loudest of places, I think you can always you can always hear the voices in your own corner. It's a weird one, no matter how loud it is. I think just because you've just been in camp for so long, or however long, years, weeks, whatever, with your trainer, that no matter how many voices is going on, you'll always be able to distinctly hear the voices of your corner giving instructions. For me, anyway, I always seem to pick a voice out.
And like for you, I guess it's probably a bit different, obviously, in a way. Like obviously people go to different gyms and obviously it's they sort of nearly have to build a bond with a coach. Obviously your own father training you, obviously. Is it hard to break that balance, sort of, I guess? Obviously when you're at home and your dad was telling you to do something, you would do it. I guess it's that same sort of nature. But like for you, is there any sort of weirdness sort of in the way of the fact of having to listen to instruction from your dad, or does it make it easier, I guess, knowing that you full trust in everything he tells you what to do in a fight?
I think it makes it easier because obviously been with him for so long. Like I wouldn't know any different. But definitely, as you said, when you have that bond, you have that trust, and I fully know that everything he says and does is for the best for me. You know, there's no underhandedness or any of that he'd be thinking of because he obviously wants me to succeed as a son. So I definitely don't have to worry about anything like that. But yeah, it's easier. I think it is easier for me to pick out, as I say, even for taking instructions on in a fight, because I could pick my dad's voice out of a million voices screaming. So it's definitely beneficial for stuff like that. Yeah.
It'd probably be weirder for you, sort of, if someone else was having to give you instruction, you're sort of going, here you're not my dad, sort of thing. You know that saying people have, here you're not my dad, but it'd be weirder for you having to take instruction from somebody else because you've been so used to your dad being in your corner. If someone else was giving you instruction, you'd be going, I can't hear that voice.
Yeah, maybe. And you know what? In my fight next week will actually be it'll actually be the first time as a professional that my dad's not doing my corner because he's actually going away on a cruise with me man. They've had a book now for a while, and obviously these dates weren't planned for me having a fight on. That just kind of got sprung upon us in the last 2 weeks. So he has that booked. So it's actually my cousin's gonna do my corner for this one. Danny Randall, a coach from Manchester. So it's not too far. Still in the family.
Still in the family. I guess obviously, God love obviously your mum and obviously they're on the cruise because your dad will be stuck to the phone, you know, trying to obviously keep an eye on your fight. He'll probably nearly be on the phone with the phone down in the corner so that Danny can tell him how the fight's going.
Uh we're a week away and he's already panicking about the fight now, thinking, how am I gonna watch it? What am I gonna do? So I can only imagine what he's gonna be like actually on the cruise. But yeah, I'll leave him for the stressing and all this do what I have to do.
Definitely. Obviously you haven't boxed obviously since, probably it's coming up now a year, obviously the 13th of May last year. You obviously were supposed to fight a couple of weeks ago, obviously, and I guess as boxing obviously is until you sort of put the gloves on and fight night and everything can go wrong. Like obviously it's a long way to travel for you to obviously go to America and obviously at the very last second the fight just didn't happen.
Yeah, it's brutal, man. Especially like as you said, when you get all the way there, you make way, and you've done everything that you have to do. Like I personally couldn't have done anything more. All I had to do from that point was fight, and to have that pulled away at the very last second is obviously a tough one to take. But I can't sit and cry about it. As I said from before, nothing I can say or do is going to change what has just happened. So all I could have done was go back home, go back in the gym, and get ready for the next opportunity to come, which came within 4 or 5 weeks.
Obviously being signed to Starbucks and obviously as well. Like, I think this is your fourth fight, I believe, now under Starbucks and
Four
um,
fight.
fourth fight. How different obviously is it to fight in America? Obviously the countries you fought in.
I love fighting in America. I love going over. I love the experience of it all. I think the fans are great. they really do love the boxing over there. The atmosphere is to be great as well. Obviously, the other countries they're fighting, instead of being during COVID, maybe they haven't been to the fullest kind of fan experience. But yeah, they love a good fight night over in America, and you can't beat the experience of going around the world and fighting all different, not just places, but styles of boxers. Like all over America, you have so many different kind of styles of boxing. You're not just coming up against one style. Like most of the time, if you come from a country, each country kind of has a style of boxing. Like maybe they'll differ a little bit this way or a little bit that way, but a lot of the boxers will box the same from that country. Whereas when you go to America, I feel like there's so many different kind of styles and stuff like that. So you're getting not only a full experience of traveling around, but all different kind of styles of boxers also.
Do you find it obviously, I guess, whenever Americans obviously see there's an Irish fighter sort of fighting as well, you obviously get that extra bit of attention from them. Do you sort of feel that sort of pressure from people, that people think that you're Mickey Ward? Obviously, everybody in America obviously knows a Mickey Ward from the films and stuff like that, and they just think you're a warrior and you're going to be standing in the middle of the ring with obviously blood everywhere and fighting toe to toe. Like, do you feel that sort of pressure off the Americans, where they have this common perception of what they think an Irish fighter is all about?
No, I don't necessarily feel a pressure from it. I think that what they do is they give you a lot of support, because they really do. They really do love the Irish. So anytime I've been boxing, I've received nothing but support from. Often, as you said about hearing people in the crowds, you'll hear people over in America that you don't necessarily know. Like, you probably never met in your life, but they'll be shouting, "Let's go Irish," and it's just down to that. Like, so they show a lot of support to the Irish over there, and I'd be forever grateful for that.
I wonder, is that why Tiernan Bradley he calls himself Irish TP? I wonder, is that why he's Irish in his name, because of what you say there, when people call you Irish? Is he just sort of an easy one for a nickname?
It might be. Yeah, no, I know he's lived over in America, so they might have called him Irish when he lived over here.
And so obviously, if anybody was sort of searching in box right now, they obviously wouldn't see where your fighting stuff's at. Where are you fighting at next week?
I'm fighting in the Paramount on Long Island, New York.
That was where your last fight was supposed to be, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's nearly a year to the day, actually. It'll be when I stepped into the ring. Is in the exact same venue, yeah.
And as obviously, because it's not on box and things like that, obviously I'm not sort of prepared with it. Like, with you been out of the ring for nearly a year, what is it, like a 6-rounder, an 8-rounder? What sort of?
It's a 6-rounder. Yeah, my original fight last month was actually scheduled for an 8-rounder, but my promoter Joe DeGuardia obviously done a great job with me, getting me back out so quick. But the card was obviously full, so for him to get me kind of back out, it just had to be a 6-rounder. So I was happy to take anything, to be honest. I just want to get back out and back active.
And I guess obviously making up for that lost time, obviously I know you've obviously done you've had 3 scheduled 8-rounders sort of so far. Like, sort of is the plan to sort of get back, maybe get 1 or 2 fights, and then maybe look at a title fight? Is that the sort of plan you have for 2024?
Definitely, yeah. The fourth plan is obviously just to get back and get active, because a year out of the ring for a young fighter, I think for me personally is way too long. So I need to get some rounds back under my belt and definitely push on for titles towards the end of this year, early next year, 100%.
And this sort of only touching obviously some of the Irish fighters you sort of sparred, like obviously James Tennyson, now it's retired. Sort of, you done quite a lot of sparring with him in the past. I know more recently you've probably been sparring Gary Cully, who sort of, like, I'm sure you'll know, like, Gary's size at fighting at lightweight. Like, these fighters have probably maybe helped you sort of get to the stage where you're at sort of now, particularly with James, what we've seen in his career. Like, the sparring that you sort of had as you're building as a pro is probably brought you maybe on 5 or 10 years, probably in experience.
Oh, definitely, yeah. The sparring I've done with James learned me a lot, to be honest, like them sort of rounds when you're a young pro are invaluable. Like I feel like you do most of your learning. You can do as much training as you want, but when you're in there with a proper pro, like you do a hell of a lot of learning, and they've definitely brought me along, yeah. And then obviously when I was sparring Gary the last few weeks, they let the them sharp rounds. Like I'm fighting a southpaw, obviously, so you won't get a sharper southpaw in the country than Gary, yeah.
I, particularly with obviously James, I guess James Tennyson always been a good one for anybody. You know, if you don't move, James Tennyson comes at you, and it's only going to end sort of one way. So probably it was good training away for sort of footwork. You know, if I don't move out the road, if I don't move my head, James Tennyson's going to knock it clean off. You know, like what a fighter he always was. Like I think that he only ever heard the final bell in a fight once. You know, once or twice. Like you think of the
That's
career
a
he had, and he never hardly heard a final bell, whether he was stopped or obviously he stopped his opponents.
Yeah, definitely. As like when you know when you're getting in with James, you're in for a tough day's work. But as a young pro, like that's what you want. As I said, that sort of experience is invaluable, and it'll teach you a hell of a lot of things. And when someone hits as hard as James does, it'll tell you, it'll teach you quick what what to do in there. Like so,
Definitely.
yeah, I'd be forever grateful for him for everything that I've learned and gained off him along the way. Yeah,
And obviously you obviously mix your training up and obviously in Manchester as well. Obviously, like obviously the Manchester's pretty much like Ireland, sort of in the way that sort of working class, and obviously fighters have to work hard to get in the position they are. Like you're getting really good, valuable training and rounds over there as well.
yeah. And any chance we get, we go off to Manchester for a camp, because I feel like the sort of sparring you get over there, it's good sparring here, but when you have the likes of, you have British champions, kind of European champions, world champions, and you don't just have one of each. You have such a broad variety of sparring. When you're over there, you can get one to suit people that you're kind of coming up to fight soon, or anything like that. Like I feel like the variety of sparring you have over there is just so beneficial that any chance I have, I kind of take myself over there.
Definitely, obviously different styles, obviously your southpaws and everything else. So it's obviously you've got good blend of everywhere, so that when you do get that stage where you're fighting a southpaw, you already know how to deal with it in advance without sort of your dad having to repeat it over and over again. You know the different wee movements you sort of having to make. Um, obviously it's great we've sort of finally got one and done, Ryan. Obviously that's just come to an interview. Hopefully we'll not leave it too long before we do our next one. Um, but obviously all the very best of luck for your fight in America next Saturday night, and I'm sure
Thanks
we'll
very,
catch up with you very soon.
right. I'll see you in a bit.
All right,
Thanks very
cheers,
much.
Ryan. Take care. Thanks. Bye bye. Bye bye. Bye.